Imagine this. You are trapped inside an abandoned research bunker 3,000 feet up in the Alaskan wilderness. Outside, a ruthless blizzard rages at -40 degrees. Around you, thousands of tons of rock-hard ice lock you in complete darkness. But you don't have a single log to build a fire, no functioning electric heater to hold back the cold, and the last battery in your possession is dying. According to medical science, at -40 degrees, hypothermia sets in within 15 minutes. In less than an hour, your blood thickens, your circulation fails, and your internal organs begin to shut down. Your GPS signal is dead, your satellite tracker is frozen solid, and no rescue team in the world knows you are buried alive beneath a mountain of ice. What do? This isn't a fictional horror movie. This is the chilling, true survival account of 6 scientists stationed at Arctic Research Post B-16. 6 experts who, at the absolute peak of modern technological innovation, were reduced to freezing corpses by the raw, unforgiving power of nature. Arctic B-16 was a modern engineering marvel buried 100 feet beneath the Alaskan tundra. Designed to withstand the most brutal polar conditions on Earth, the subterranean facility was powered by automated oxygen generators and an advanced thermal core that kept the interior at a comfortable 75 degrees Fahrenheit, no matter how deadly the storm was outside. On board was an international team of 6 elite specialists. Leading the expedition was Dr. Arthur Vance, a former U.S. Army high-altitude specialist. Alongside him were Dr. Maya Lin, a renowned geophysicist, Daniel, the lead mechanical engineer, Alex, a biomedical officer, and 2 junior lab technicians, Ethan and Ryan. Their mission was to extract million-year-old mineral cores buried deep beneath the ice sheet. For the first 4 weeks, everything ran flawlessly. Automated systems controlled the climate, and the crew enjoyed high-tech comforts in the middle of nowhere. Then, at 4 in the morning on November 3rd, nightmare struck. It wasn't an ordinary blizzard. 3.5 miles beneath the station, an unmapped subglacial fault line ruptured in a violent cryoquake. The intense shockwaves shattered the ice shelf above, collapsing thousands of tons of dense ice directly onto the station's main air vents and external energy lines. Then came the fatal blow 10 minutes later. The mechanical shock caused a high-voltage short circuit in the power housing, causing the main thermal generator to explode. Within 15 minutes, the automated control panels flashed bright red before blacking out forever. The backup battery array was completely destroyed. The heating system was dead. When the team stumbled into the main hallway the next morning, they found frost creeping across the steel walls. The digital thermometer's Celsius display was plunging out of control. 15 degrees, 8 degrees, 0 degrees, -5 degrees. When lead engineer Daniel trudged through knee-deep frost into the generator bay, the sight inside made his blood run cold. The steel control cabinets were melted into useless slag. The main fuse box was charred ash. Every automated life support system was offline. Daniel sprinted back to the central lab, his breath billowing in thick white clouds. "Captain!" Daniel gasped, his voice trembling with panic. "The thermal generator is destroyed! The backup batteries are melted! We can't restart the heat!" Captain Arthur Vance tried to remain calm, though the cold was already biting into his throat. "Where are the emergency thermal suits and heat blankets, Daniel? The storage locker collapsed during the quake!" Daniel choked out. "The steel door is crushed shut. We can't get inside." Outside, the temperature was -42 degrees. Inside the dead lab, it was rapidly dropping past -15. They were trapped 100 feet below the surface, beneath millions of tons of ice. Their satellite link was severed. The emergency frequency transmitter was frozen solid. Nobody in the outside world knew that 6 people inside Arctic B-16 were about to turn into blocks of solid ice. Standard polar protocol dictates that every outpost carry rechargeable thermal boots and portable space heaters. But when they searched the secondary supply locker, they found a devastating reality. The chemical spill from the explosion had destroyed everything except a single battery-powered electric space heater. And the backup battery on that heater showed only 10% charge remaining. Captain Vance gathered everyone into the narrow analysis room. It measured barely 10 by 12 feet. Larger rooms lost heat too fast. Their only option was to huddle together in a tiny space and use their combined body heat to slow down the freeze. "Listen to me carefully," Captain Vance said, his lips already turning a faint shade of blue. "Our main generator is gone. Emergency comms are dead. All we have left is this single portable heater with 10% charge." A heavy, suffocating silence fell over the room. The only sound was the sharp, rapid breathing of 6 terrified people in the freezing dark. 10%? Ryan, the junior technician, shouted hysterically. "Are you kidding me, Captain? That heater will run for maybe an hour. Then what? We freeze to death under 0 degrees. If we run it continuously, yes, it dies in an hour, Vance replied, his voice cold as iron. But if we are strategic, if we run it for just 4 minutes every 3 hours, we can stretch this battery to last 40 hours. We only turn it on when the room drops past -20. 4 minutes. 4 minutes of heat every 3 hours to keep 6 human beings alive in a -40-degree hell. They managed to survive the first 24 hours in fragile discipline. They huddled in a tight circle, pressing against one another to trap every calorie of body heat. Every 3 hours, when the heater glowed orange for those precious 4 minutes, they reached toward it like starving predators. But by the second day, their bodies began to break down. Hypothermia doesn't just freeze the skin, it attacks the human mind. As core temperature drops, the brain restricts blood flow to the extremities to protect vital organs. Starved of oxygen, the brain loses the ability to think logically. Confusion sets in, followed by severe delirium and a terrifying phenomenon known as paradoxical undressing, where a freezing brain incorrectly signals that the body is burning up. On the morning of the 4th day, as the temperature inside the room hovered at -22, Ethan's mind snapped. Delirious from stage 3 hypothermia, his brain sent wildly distorted signals to his nerve endings. He began to feel an agonizing, phantom heat rushing through his veins. "It's too hot! I'm burning up!" Ethan suddenly screamed, scrambling to his feet. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, and wild. "Ethan, sit down! You're not hot! You're freezing!" Dr. Maya Lin pleaded, reaching out to grab his arm. "Get off me! You're lying!" Ethan shrieked. "The captain is trying to roast us alive!" In a blind panic, Ethan began tearing off his heavy winter coat, ripping off his thermal gloves, and throwing his face mask across the room. "Ethan, stop! Don't strip! It's -40 out there!" Captain Vance yelled, lunging forward to tackle him. But adrenaline and psychosis gave Ethan terrifying strength. He shoved Vance hard against the steel wall, slapped away Maya's hands, and smashed the emergency release bar on the lab's exit hatch, sprinting out into the howling blizzard. "Ethan, come back!" Alex, the biomedical officer, sprinted after him. But within 30 seconds, the -42-degree wind and Arctic air froze the moisture in Ethan's lungs instantly. In less than 3 minutes, his airway collapsed, and he dropped lifeless into the snowbank. By the time Alex dragged his body back inside, Ethan's limbs were frozen as stiff as steel pipes. He was gone. Ethan's death hit the remaining 5 survivors like a sledgehammer. The ice wasn't just creeping around them, it was actively hunting them. By the 5th day, the temperature inside the room plunged to -28. Breathing became painful. The tips of their fingers had turned a dull, lifeless black, the undeniable mark of severe frostbite. That was when Daniel remembered a hidden detail. In the dry storage bay at the back of the facility sat a commercial chemical drill. That drill was powered by an independent 12-volt lithium battery pack. Nobody knew how much charge it had left, but if they could wire it to the space heater, it might give them a few more priceless hours of warmth. Without telling the others to avoid raising false hopes, Daniel dragged his stiff, barely responsive legs through the dark hallway toward the storage bay. The storage room was dead quiet, every iron shelf covered in an inch of thick frost. Using a flickering flashlight, Daniel found the drill sitting on a high shelf. Mounted to its base was the compact battery pack. Daniel reached out with frozen, numb fingers to detach it when he heard heavy footsteps behind him. "Hand over the battery, Daniel." Daniel turned slowly to find Sam, the veteran mechanic, standing in the doorway, holding a heavy steel pipe cutter. His pupils were dilated, his face pale, his eyes completely consumed by survival madness. "Sam, calm down," Daniel rasped, his throat burning. "I can wire this to the main heater. It will keep all of us alive." "You're lying!" Sam snarled, stepping closer. "You're going to hoard it for yourself. I'm taking that battery for my own heated vest." "Sam, if you use it alone, it dies in 10 minutes. Connected to the heater, it gives all 5 of us a chance." "I don't care about the others," Sam screamed, lunging forward with the steel cutter. A desperate, clumsy fight broke out on the icy floor. Sam swung the cutter, grazing Daniel's arm. Blood spurted from the wound, but before it could hit the floor, it froze into solid red crystals in the air. In a desperate bid to survive, Daniel shoved Sam back with all his remaining strength. Sam lost his footing on the slick ice, crashing heavily into a rusted steel storage rack. With a deafening crash, heavy iron shelves and chemical drums collapsed on top of Sam, crushing his chest under hundreds of pounds of metal. "Sam!" Daniel gasped, crawling over to pull the heavy rack off him, but it was too late. Internal trauma, combined with extreme cold, stopped Sam's heart within moments. Daniel reached down to retrieve the lithium battery, only to see that the impact had cracked the plastic casing. Corrosive battery fluid was leaking onto the ice, hissing as it neutralized in the cold. The battery was destroyed. Daniel stared at the ruined pack, collapsed onto the frozen floor, and wept silently in the dark. They hadn't just lost a battery, they had lost another human soul to the ice. When Daniel stumbled back into the central lab and confessed what had happened, Captain Vance didn't yell. He didn't have the metabolic energy left for anger. "Our heater battery just hit 0, Captain Vance said, looking at the 4 remaining survivors. "There is no more electric power left in this station." "Are we going to freeze now, Captain?" Dr. Maya Lin whispered. 3 of her fingers were completely blacked out from frostbite. "No," Vance said firmly. "When technology fails, we rely on the only thermal engine nature gave us, our own bodies." Vance used the very last burst of heater power to warm their heavy coats one final time. Then, the red light flickered and died. The heater went dead forever. Vance arranged the 4 survivors in the center of the room. They huddled together in a tight, interlocking circle, a human heat core. They placed Maya in the very center, as she was the weakest, while Vance and Daniel wrapped themselves around the outside to shield the core. They trapped every breath, sharing body heat, fighting a silent, desperate battle against a -30-degree room. Every minute felt like an eternity. Breathing felt like inhaling shards of glass. Their eyelashes froze together, threatening to seal their eyes shut. But they slapped each other, spoke in raspy whispers, and refused to let anyone fall asleep. Because in this cold, falling asleep meant never waking up again. Day 6 bled into day 7. For over 80 hours without a single watt of power, 4 human beings survived on nothing but raw willpower and shared body heat inside a frozen steel tomb. On the night of the 7th day, the temperature inside the bunker reached a critical threshold. Everything liquid in the room was solid ice. Even the medicine bottles had shattered from the freeze. Maya's eyes began to roll back. "Captain, I can't stay awake. Please let me sleep." "No, Maya, stay with me," Vance rasped, slapping her frostbitten cheek with his numb palm. "Look at me. Keep your eyes open." Suddenly, a strange rhythmic vibration echoed from above. Thump, thump, thump. It wasn't a cryoquake. It was the heavy, metallic thud of a steel drill bit crushing through rock and ice. "Captain," Alex whispered, forcing his head up. "Do you hear that? Or is my brain dead?" Vance listened intently. Thump, thump, thump. The sound was getting louder. Someone was drilling through 100 feet of solid ice from the surface. With the absolute last ounce of strength in his body, Captain Vance reached for an emergency road flare sitting in the corner. His frozen fingers struggled with the pin, but he managed to strike it against the concrete floor. Shriek! A blinding red flame erupted, casting brilliant warmth and thick smoke through the freezing darkness. Moments later, the ice ceiling cracked open, and a heavy pneumatic rescue drill broke through the overhead rock. Bright halogen spotlights beamed down into the room. "We have survivors down here!" a voice bellowed through the hatch. "Get the thermal blankets and oxygen now!" U.S. Navy Arctic rescue personnel descended down the guide ropes into the lab, wrapping the survivors in heated thermal suits. 3 days later, inside an Anchorage military hospital, 4 survivors recovered from severe hypothermia and frostbite. Out of 6 scientists, 4 had made it out of the -40-degree tomb. 2 had been claimed by the unforgiving laws of nature. As Captain Arthur Vance sat up in his hospital bed, looking out the window at the falling snow, there was no victory in his eyes. He had learned a terrifying truth. We spend billions of dollars building high-tech facilities, engineering automated systems, and convincing ourselves that we have conquered the elements. But when the power grid fails, when the last battery dies, all that million-dollar technology becomes nothing more than a cold steel cage. In the unforgiving mirror of nature, civilization strips away in an instant, leaving behind only human endurance, willpower, and the heat we give to one another to survive. If you were trapped in that frozen bunker, would you have fought for that extra battery? Or would you have relied on your team to survive the freeze? Let us know your strategy in the comments below. If you enjoyed this extreme survival story, smash that like button and subscribe for more thrilling, true-life survival accounts.